The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
There'll be spectacle, there'll be fantasy, there'll be daring do and stuff like you would never see.
Be a movie, yeah, we're gonna be a movie,
Starring everybody
and me. There'll be heroes bold, there'll be comedy, and a lot of fuss that ends for us real happily. Be a movie, we can watch it all develop, starring everybody
and me. We'll take the world and set it on its ear.
Come on, join in. We're gonna start right here.
It's no big deal, Jesse. It's no big deal.
I think of the song every single time that I think we found like the song for that show, or remember there was like a song called It's No Big Deal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you recall that or not. And we were scouring the internet. You've done it continually afterwards.
I still can't find this fucking movie.
Here we fucking are tonight.
Yeah. So the whole reason this is Triple Feature, I'm Mark Radulich, that's Jesse Starcher. The whole reason why we're here tonight is because a while back, Jesse and I went off on a tangent down a rabbit hole because I had a memory of a movie where kids get sent to like a juvenile detention hall, and there's like a bully kid, and another kid finally gets revenge on him during a dodgeball game where like pump fakes throwing the dodgeball, and the kid goes to jump out of the way, and there's like a pillar in the middle of the floor, and he
sounds very comedic. This is a comedy. It has to be
gross. And he like smashed his face first into the pillar. And like one of the guards like presses his nose. It's clearly broken. You can hear it crunch. It was a very distinct memory.
Gosh.
So one day while I was at work, not working, I had Fancy and I went through this whole thing, and it was like, is it Sleepers? And I'm like, no, but hey, Sleepers is by Barry Levinson. Hey, that gives me an idea. So we did that triple feature already. But it was like, is it Bad Boys? And I'm like, oof. It's been such a long time since I've seen Bad Boys with Sean Penn. I don't know if it's that one or not, but it kind of thought it did. And I was like, you know what? Whether it is or it isn't, I kind of want to talk about this because then it would give me an opportunity to talk about the Basketball Diaries. And then I was like, all right, I need one more here. And then suggested Over the Edge, which I'd never seen before. Boy, when we get to that. I really wanted to talk about Basketball Diaries. I wanted to see if Bad Boys was what I was thinking about with the dodgeball scene. And then Over the Edge seemed like a fun movie to talk about. So here we are, Jesse and I, because I have ADHD and obsessive compulsive disorder. And a fragmented memory, apparently. We are here tonight to do a triple feature of youth in trouble movies. What do you think about that, Jesse?
Well, my goodness, if it is not a warning cry to the parents of every single one of these movies that, hey, pay attention to your kids. Please, for the love of God, pay attention to your kids.
Even though Basketball Diaries, I think, takes place in the 90s, I was thinking about like Over the Edge and Bad Boys, and I was like, wow, all it took was 20 years. In 20 years, whatever hope this country had for like maintaining its social contract and building towards a better future, by 20 years, it was over. Like, that was it. America had one 20-year period of, like, rapid growth and expansion and success, and then it was done. And granted, we didn't feel it for a while, and then it was definitely kind of hidden by the Reagan Revolution, which was an illusion. But we have been sort of dealing with the fallout of the Depression and World War II since they ended. And it gets expressed through how our families function, and then movies get made about family dysfunction, and that's what we're talking about, you know? So Have you ever seen, before I read my introduction, have you ever seen these before? Any of these?
I don't think I have. I've heard of Bad Boys,
Mhm.
and I don't think I ever heard of Over the Edge at all.
Yeah, neither did I.
Basketball Diaries, I definitely remember coming out. That's prime mid-90s. You talked about how, like, yeah, it was supposed to take place in the 90s, but this was based off of a book that was written by a guy, I think, who was going through this very thing. I think
Jim
it was
Carroll.
in the,
It's about his life.
yeah. So that would have been like late 60s, maybe, or well, actually maybe early 60s, possibly. So it definitely kind of had that tone to it. But again, yeah, I don't think I've seen all three. I've heard of two of them. One of them I had no idea existed.
Yeah, I saw the Basketball Diaries when it came out, and I don't know if you've heard me do the impression before, but that last bit of Leonardo DiCaprio chewing scenery and the door that he's crying against has lived rent-free in my head forever.
Yeah.
Did you watch any of these with your kids?
No, did not. I think Kira would have loved to probably watch Basketball Diaries. You know, she would have been able to say, "Oh, hey, there's Mark Wahlberg again."
Yes.
And you know, but no, I did not watch any of these with the children. Usually, I think me and the wife watched about. I think I watched Bad Boys by myself, and she came in on that one too. So I think all three of these, she came in a little bit later. But
does your wife ever ask you? Does Mark ever make you watch anything happy? Would a comedy triple feature not be too much?
What was it she said? Because we were sitting there, and I mean, she made it sound like, "Oh, this is definitely typical of what she expected you to pick."
Nice.
While we were watching it today, she was like, "Oh yeah, it seems like all he picks are like depressing true stories," and I'm like, "Yeah,
that's me."
Based on a true story. Grab your tissues.
So my son had a really funny fucking reaction to the Basketball Diaries. He was like, "It's a good movie, Dad, but why did you make me watch this? I'm not in danger of using heroin, I promise you. This is so depressing." He was, and I was like, "Well, I think it's a conversation starter. I think it's something to to process. I think there's a lot to be learned and taken from the Basketball Diaries." And he was like, "I'm 11."
Yeah.
And I looked at and I turned away from him. I'm like, "Lily, what did you think of the Basketball Diaries?" And she was like, "Well, it made me uncomfortable at times, but it's a good movie." And I was like, "It made you uncomfortable because you don't like seeing scenes of like a sexual nature at all," which I forgot was in this, or I might have made a different choice. But what I said to them, because they both brought that up, they were just like, "Did you bother to look at the parents guide before you showed your 11 and 14-year-old this movie?" And I'm like, "Nope." Completely forgot about some of the graphic scenes in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of implied stuff.
Yeah.
So,
but on the other hand, and this is the point that I made to them, I was like, "Look, man, it's not like I showed you Showgirls. There's 2 hours of Elizabeth Berkley's tits and
booby.
terrible acting." I was like, "There's nothing to get from Showgirls except for entertainment, unintentional entertainment, and comedy." I said, "But here, there's value to this movie, and okay, so there's a couple of uncomfortable scenes, And then I brought it up in the group chat, and the comment was made about it. And I'm like, man, I grew up watching Porky's when I was 6 or 7, so I'm not gonna, I stand by my parenting decision. But it generated a good conversation between the three of us. We talked, like Lily's whole thing at the end was, like, couldn't the mom have just gotten help for him? Like, why'd you have to call the police? And I was just like, "Oh, you sweet summer child."
This is, we are far beyond that at this point.
Well, not only that, what they called it you what though? The sad reality, and boy, it's even gotten sadder over the last few days. I don't know if you've seen the executive order yet. Is that you either have to be a harm to yourself or others, or there's no calling to take you away. Like, the reason why we have temporary involuntary commitment is to get people who are harmed to themselves or others out of the house. Short of that, you have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't put them out, and there's no place to put them. And there's a whole other conversation to be had about that. But that's what I told her. I was just like, you kind of have the law enforcement systems and institutions we have in this country are woefully inadequate to deal with the rising tide of the mental health crisis, except that is the only tool we have left.
Right.
In large portion. And I hate to say it this way, but it does involve a degree of involuntary treatment because, most people won't go for it, or,
Right.
they're so far beyond rational thinking that giving them voluntary treatment is not going to work either. So, so when she calls the cops on him, and Lily's reaction to that was, why'd she have to call the cops? Why can't you just get him help? And I'm like, there's no help to have. You kind of have to go through law enforcement first and have that lever, that leverage put on you in order to even attempt to get help.
Right.
And then we started talking about like the cost of rehab.
And the other thing is, did that mom even know there were other options?
No, it's the fucking 90s in Manhattan.
Right. Right. Well, you got two options, and she's holding the money in her hand that the kid is that Jim is asking for while she's on the phone, and she's just about to give it to him. So those are the only two options she can see, is either give in to what he wants or get him the help, and that's the only thing she could pick. So
just to kind of finish this up, but I only watched the Basketball Diaries with them. I watched the other two by myself, and even Bad Boys, I was like, oof, I can't watch this with my kids. This is rough.
Yeah.
This is.
I think as far as kids go, the most, as far as what they could take away from it, I think Basketball Diaries probably has the most that they could probably see and go, okay, yeah, this guy made some bad decisions. I really should not do drugs at any time during my life.
Yeah. So let's get into what we're here to deal. We're taking a deep dive into 3 searing portraits of adolescent collapse. Bad Boys from 1983, The Basketball Diaries from 1995, and Over the Edge from 1979. So we are spanning 3 decades here. These films don't just shock or provoke, they document. They document a particular strain of American decay that metastasized during the 20-year stretch from 1959 to 1979, a period when the traditional family structure, once upheld as a Cold War ideal, began to fracture under economic pressure, suburban disillusionment, and institutional mistrust. This wasn't a clean break, it was a slow corrosion. The result is a generation of young men left untethered, adrift in a world that could neither protect them nor punish them fast enough to matter. Over the Edge, a 1979 cult classic, is a movie that captured the disaffected spirit of middle-class youth like few films ever have. Set in a prefabricated suburb designed more for investment than living, the kids here are not impoverished, but they are neglected. Their world is one of the false promises and fenced-in futures. There are no fathers, not really, just overworked salesmen and checked-out authority figures. The emotional distance is palpable. This is what happens when you build communities as holding pens, not homes. The result is explosive. These teens aren't rebelling against strict parents or moral codes. They're lashing out in an emotional void. Then there's The Basketball Diaries, as we've been discussing, a harrowing look at addiction and alienation set against the backdrop of the 1990s New York, but rooted in a true story from the 60s. Jim Carroll's descent into heroin addiction is often read as a personal tragedy, but in context, it's emblematic of something larger: the erosion of protective adult guidance and the seductive power of oblivion when reality offers nothing back. His mother, present but overwhelmed, is powerless to stop the spiral. Authority comes too late and in the wrong form. There's no community here, only institutions, and institutions don't love you. They process you. And in many ways, this film picks up the thread left dangling by Over the Edge. What happens when the fallout of the suburban collapse reaches the inner city and there's no illusion of a future left? And finally, we have Bad Boys starring Will Smith. Just kidding. We have Bad Boys starring Sean Penn, a film that doesn't blink. Released in 1983, it thrusts us into the juvenile detention system and strips away every layer of protection we pretend still exists for troubled youth. Sean Penn's character is a product of pure hardening. There's no fantasy, no poetry, no redemption arc, only survival. The family here is non-functional to the point of irrelevance. The state is a gladiator pit. Violence isn't dramatic, it's pragmatic. What Bad Boys does so brutally well is force us to confront what happens when boys become men too early, too alone, and too angry. What ties these 3 films together is not just their focus on troubled youth, but their implicit accusation. We made them this way. Through neglect, economic expediency, and the slow abandonment of any consistent moral or emotional scaffolding, American society left millions of young people to fend for themselves. These aren't just stories of crime or rebellion, they're stories of abandonment, and that's why they matter. Especially, especially now in 2025, the year of our Lord. Because while the details have changed, the pattern remains. We live in a world where young men are still falling through the cracks, only now the cracks are digital, pharmacological, or ideological. Watching these films today isn't about nostalgia, it's about recognition. It's about asking how many more generations can we afford to lose before we start reckoning with the systems that keep producing them. So, let's talk about it, Jesse.
Let's talk about it.
Let's get into Bad Boys.
My goodness.
Starring Sean Penn and Isai Morales. So the basic thing here is Sean Penn's a ne'er-do-well. He's a purse snatcher. He's fucking up in the streets, and him and the captain of the Excelsior, Alan Ruck, good old Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. They are running afoul of a local Hispanic gang led by Isai Morales, who has, I believe, a brother who's wanting to be part of things, but he's too young just yet. He needs to hang out in them corners more. And it all comes to a head one night when there's robberies and shootouts, and Sean Penn loses control of the car and he runs over Isai Morales' brother.
Yeah.
So, killing a kid when you're a kid yourself only gets you a few months in juvenile detention. Good to know.
Just a few months.
Just a few months. So he gets sentenced to Oz for children. And while there,
not pleasant.
He runs afoul of Clancy Brown, and he has to overcome that. And then he becomes the big man on campus. But oh no, Isai Morales, in an attempt to get revenge on Sean Penn through Ali Sheedy, who is Sean Penn's girlfriend, he mugs and rapes her. But the cops show up in the ta-da nick of time, so he's going to adult prison, but there's no room for him just yet. So they send him to the juvenile detention, where he, of course, gets there after Sean Penn has become big man on campus. And so these two, there's a ticking time clock where they're trying to get Isai Morales out of there. And of course, Clancy Brown is not thrilled that he's been displaced as the big leader in charge.
Oh yeah.
So these two gang up on Sean Penn, and it all comes to a head where Sean Penn and Isai Morales basically have like a gladiator fight.
Yep.
And Sean Penn comes this close to killing him. In the end, he chooses his own humanity and chooses to not murder him in cold blood, and that's where the movie ends. Mm-hmm. What did you think of Bad Boys, Jesse?
Well,
there was no dodgeball scene, by the way.
No dodgeball scene whatsoever here. The only thing that should have been dodged was a bag full of RC colas.
That's why I know I've seen this before, because I remember the RC cola vividly. He beats the fuck out of it. He basically turns like a bunch of soda cans in a pillowcase into a goddamn morning star.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He's ready. He is ready at this point. Okay, so where to begin with this one? Because essentially what we have here is we establish that Sean Penn is not a good guy. He's going around, he's robbing people, he's about ready to, he convinces his buddy to go in on this heist, and his buddy gets shot. And in the ensuing car chase ends up killing a kid accidentally. Obviously, he didn't mean to kill Paco's brother. So it was an accident. And then the next thing you know, he's thrown into the system that looks like maybe we're going to rehab this kid. I think one of my favorite parts is when he goes in there. One of the guards, I can't remember which one, is going over the rules. Mm-hmm. And there's a point system, which, I mean, my goodness, it's excessive. Some of the things that happen here that apparently can contribute to your stay.
Sure.
And they get down to the final one, and it's like smoking gets you 400. And then Mick turns around and looks, and everybody in the whole fucking place is smoking. Mm-hmm. So it's not like these rules even matter, or these people do not care. One of those two things is going to happen. I'm actually on the side of the former, because it feels like, these rules are here and we can enforce them when we want to. Granted, we don't really have like the overbearing guards like we had in Sleepers. That was the bad stuff that was going on there. You could tell these people kind of want to help them, but also have to keep, a strict way of going about things. But they also aren't keeping order as well as they should. I mean, Mick then makes his way back to his cell, and like everybody is blowing smoke in his face, spitting on him. It's gruesome and vile just to watch him just get walked and not touched other than just spit on. And then the rest of the movie is him obviously coming in there in the pecking order that we have to see. And he has to now live with this consequence up till, of course, we get the Paco situation where Paco gets brought in. But you watch him kind of be at the bottom of things. And then all of a sudden he takes out Tweety and Viking, taking them out after after Tweety, by the way, killed a kid. And
he fucking Ultimate Warrior like gorilla pressed him off the second tier.
Right. I've got a question, Mark. Did security cameras exist in 1983? Because I swear to goodness, that was the first thing that came out of my mouth. I was like, because they're interviewing everybody. Nobody's giving up anything.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the cameras, dumbasses. I understand. It's 1983, whatever.
I'm guessing they didn't have cameras.
I'm guessing so. But regardless, you would think that a detention facility such as that would have cameras in place just in case things kind of go sideways.
But I think there's also like a learned neglect that was permeating that place of,
Oh yeah.
It was there's a word that gets used from social workers and law enforcement. It's called compassion fatigue. It's basically where, you just stop caring about the conditions that these kids are in, or, your clients are in. You're just like, whatever, you're making witches at this point. And people get that way. Compassion fatigue is a very real thing. It's something I've battled myself. But, if you remember watching the show Oz, a lot of the guards there, the ones that weren't necessarily on the take, but they were just also kind of resigned to let them kill each other. Right. Like, we're going to do the minimum job to keep our paychecks rolling in, to keep ourselves safe, but I'm not overextending myself. These, I remember not that long into the first season, Edie,
Falco?
Edie Falco was like, I babysit a bunch of piss pots. These are people. Mm-hmm. But because they're charged with any number of crimes, serious or otherwise, they are looked as less than human.
Right.
So when going all the way back to Bad Boys, so when you have a situation where there's two kids fighting on the tier, and one of them is a big man in charge, and if you listen to what the Jewish kid said, he was like, if you can keep everybody else in line, you're more valuable to, so there's incentive to just kind of let you get away with murder, quite literally.
Yeah, right.
Because they were kind of keeping everybody else at bay. So, like, what's one life of a meaningless black kid if order will be instilled in the rest of these animals?
Mm-hmm.
Is basically the way they looked at it.
Right.
So there's not a lot of incentive to solve the murder of this, and it's funny because part of the reason why I'm kind of glad we're talking about this tonight is because, again, there's an executive order out there now that's like, forcibly committing if you're homeless, if you have mental illness, all kinds of reasons. And a lot of the big takeaway from between the big, beautiful bill and the executive order on homelessness is unless you clear a certain bar in the United States, you are looked upon by elements of the federal government as utterly worthless. I mean, it's 2025. We're talking about a movie from 1983, and I'm not entirely sure anything's changed.
Right.
Not of any significant value. Not in the terms of elements of. It's funny. There's a really great book, if you're interested in this, called by Edwin Black. It's called War Against the Weak, and it's about the history of eugenics. And a major philosophical thing about eugenics was there are people not worth saving. What's the premise behind it? There are people of this world not worth keeping alive, not worth treating, not worth interacting with. The ways in which they were dealt with were, forced sterilizations and then, pushing for legal abortion and things like that. There's been a lot of stuff kind of knitted into the fabric of society that makes people of a certain type, makes it difficult for them to break out of their class in life.
Sure.
And it's because from a macro level, from a far point of view, there are some elements of this population that don't think those people are worth it. There's no value there. So going all the way back to the scene with Tweety and the Guerrilla Press, they don't really, there's some effort. Like, they don't want to lose funding, and they don't want to be investigated by any local authorities for having to give, or sued by parents if there are any for killing a kid. But
Right.
short of those I's and those I's and T's being dotted and crossed, they're like, who cares? Who cares? He's worthless. He's a worthless human being. That's the sum total of that scene.
That's sad. It really, really is. So I think, one of the big themes that's being talked about here with Bad Boys is also, the cycle of violence and revenge.
Yeah.
That's definitely going to be the crux of the big moment that happens at the end.
Well, let's go back even further than that. Look at Sean Penn's situation. He's got a single mom who's dating, and she's not really interested in parenting him so much as sheltering him.
Right.
And so I use the word in my intro, untethered. He has, when you think about like your kid's behavior, they either respect you as parents or they don't. And if they respect you despite what they want to do, they'll more often than not do what they're supposed to do because you've instilled in them a sense of, right and wrong. You've, the very least, a fear of punishment.
Right.
Consistent use of boundaries, punishments, whatever. And the kid goes, okay, I understand the way the world works, at least in this house. So I will, depending on the kid, depending on the situation, how much am I willing to tolerate? How much am I willing to, push? Where's the line? How far out to the line am I willing to go? When that isn't there, what incentive was there for Sean Penn to get along with his mother, or to go to school, or to not, be a ne'er-do-well criminal in the street? He had one connection. He had a connection to Ali Sheedy.
Right.
Who was perfectly willing to fuck this kid despite his criminal behavior.
Right. Right.
So again, not a lot of incentive for Sean Penn to act in any other way but an animal.
All three of these movies that we're going to be talking about has an element of what you're speaking of, where you talk about how these kids do not respect their parents well enough, or do not understand. And the other thing you could also say, aside from our main character Carl in Over the Edge, but you could definitely probably say for Matt Dillon's character, no fathers in the picture. There is no father that's in the picture with Sean Penn's mom. There's none with Leonardo. Oh my goodness, Jim's and Basketball Diaries. So the absence of a father figure. Unfortunately, sometimes moms can get respect too. Moms can handle their own. I'm not saying that can't happen, but I'm just saying that really contributed a lot to how kids just were growing up without any compunction, respect for their elders, respect for other people. It's a common theme.
I've been writing a lot on TikTok about family dynamics over the past 70 years or so.
It's been that long. TikTok's been around for a while, folks. Just letting you know.
No, I mean, shut up. But I mean, I've been really thinking a lot about what the world was like when the men came home from the war.
Gotcha.
And PTSD was not a thing that we knew a lot about. We call it shell shock, and we only, to this day, there is it's in the year of our Lord 2025, where some Gen Zer is traumatized because they don't have, vegan burgers at McDonald's or some shit. When the men came home from World War II, people think that PTSD is only something caused by combat. It's not. It's a lot of things that can cause trauma.
Right.
Sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect, abandonment, all kinds of stuff. Dealing with a toxic partner for an extended period of time. Facts can confirm. So things like that. And you talk about, all of these men who were given loans for houses, given a GI Bill, given money to go to college. These were the men that built the next century, and they were fucked up. And a lot of them, at best case, were able to, functionally take care of a family, which was all anyone asked of them.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the same men that probably cheated and drank. Then there's the rest, the ones that abandoned their families or didn't start families because they were, homeless drug addicts. And then you double down because, we liked it so much we did it again with the Vietnam War, only this time it's worse.
Yeah.
So they have this like perpetual cycle of taking the men out of society and returning them broken with no institutions really to deal with them correctly. And in some cases, we didn't even know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I've talked about this, I've had a couple of women like reach out and be like, hey, all the stuff that you're saying about like single woman households and the government, taking the role of the man in the household and how that fucked up the women and the kids. That's all true. But can we talk about how in some of those situations, those women were fleeing domestic violence from men who were broken and didn't know how to handle their trauma and took it out on everyone around them? The amount of drug and alcohol abuse that a lot of men suffered with to one degree or another. So like, there's no father in Sean Penn's life. Where is he? Where's he at? There's no father in S.A. Morales. Like, just this poor Hispanic woman, trying to hold it together, and she can't. That's too, everything that's pulling apart her family is too strong, and just now times that by a million. And
his mother is so wise. I mean, when he wants to take revenge, right then and there, she slaps the crap out of him and says, no. Upside down, exclamation point, right side up, exclamation point. No, I do not want you to. She does not want him to do this because she knows what that is going to do, even though Paco wants to take revenge because his brother has been killed and he's watching what it's done to his family. The mom is the one that figures out like this. No, that's not the path you need to go down. But of course, who listens to their mom anyway?
Not me. So, So Sean Penn's really good in this. I think we just talked about him in Milk. Sean and I did last month. I don't people think they know how good of an actor Sean Penn is in the year of our Lord 2025 because we're kind of past his time. But this man has been either nominated or won Oscar awards. He's been in a lot of great movies. He's also been in some silly ones. But Sean Penn, for as problematic and as messy as his career was and him as a person is, he's a stellar actor. And he really, because you don't get just like blind rage. Like he's not dead behind the eyes the way a lot of characters in this situation tend to be. He is in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And he is struggling with that pain and he doesn't know what to do with it. And he has no guidance. So he's lashing out like an animal. And then he's in a situation where he really is backed into a corner and all he can do is just fight back. And then
survival.
It's like, and then it's like, all right, you're the big man in charge of the jail now. What you going to do about it? And he's like, I don't want any of this.
I'd rather not be.
Yeah, but I guess I will. He did not go through the HR training program to be gang leader.
Right.
So he's like, I don't know what to do with this. And he's
very,
doing the best he can.
The character of Mick just feels like he's consequences are a big thing. And I think a lot of our people that we're going to be talking about tonight do not understand that there are consequences for some actions that you take and accidents that happen.
You'd have to want to live a strong life to consider the consequences. Most of these kids assume they're not going to make it, so might as well live it up.
So that's kind of the vibe that I got from Mick as he goes in. He's like, he lived this life and now he is in this facility that, 90% of the people there want him dead day one. It seems like they could care less if he lives or dies. So as far as Sean Penn acting, I thought it was okay. I've seen him I feel like, he wasn't, I shouldn't say that because towards the end, you really do get some emotion. A lot of it, I guess he does a great job showing repressed emotion, because
that's
we
what I'm
finally
picking
get
up on. He has a lot of emotion behind his eyes.
Yeah. I mean, because at the end, he lets loose. And I think that's like one of the biggest moments of this movie is after he does not kill Paco, drags that dude's barely conscious body over to the security door, leaves him there, and then walks away and starts crying. And there's a moment in this movie, I think earlier, where one of the counselors asks him, or one of the guards, I can't remember, the guys that are working with him, says, "How do you feel?" And he says, "I feel like crying," but he can't. And he doesn't cry at all throughout this whole movie until the very end, which I think is very impactful. I think that's stellar writing, in my opinion. And it is good acting on the part of Sean Penn. I'll give a shout out to the kid that played Horowitz.
He's
loved
great.
watching him. Yeah, I loved watching him. You know, he's like kind of like the tech genius. You'd have no idea how in the world this kid is still
my favorite
walking.
thing. My favorite thing he does is he plants a bomb in the fucking boombox.
Yes, by using fertilizer.
Yes.
And then, he figures out a way to like paint corrosive something or other on the fence so they can get out. And I mean, he's
and then
like
this poor Jewish boy runs into barbed wire.
That's just like straight up like out in the middle of the woods too, is what's funny. Like they may have put it as a trap. I have no idea, but
I've never seen more
right
evidence.
into it.
I have never seen more evidence that God has a sense of humor than the Jewish boy
running
into
did not
barbed
go
wire.
to that level. Okay, damn. Oh,
Yikes.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this up. S.I. Morales is really good in this. Sean Penn's really good in this. It speaks to the bleak nature of like you as a sort of a bleeding heart liberal, just wanting to do some good, try to turn things around, and how hopeless it can feel. And maybe you reach one kid though. It reminds me of Oz, where McManus did so much to try to help the guys on the Emerald City tier, and one of them, he thinks he has success with Poet, and Poet gets out. He publishes a book. He's doing a book signing. And he uses his money from his book to smoke crack. And a dealer challenges him, steps to him at a book signing, and Poe fucking shoots him in the head, and goes right back to Oz. And McManus is like, "What am I doing with my life?" Like, I'm laughing about it because God knows I've been there. I for the 10 years that I worked at the jail, I was a big part of a mental health diversion program. My job was to be in booking and find people who had a victimless crime, victimless misdemeanor, and sign them up for this case management program. That was my job. And let me tell you the amount of people that I would get discharged from the jail to this program and would either jump out of the van or and then get arrested the same day. Like, I literally remember doing a diversion, and hours later, they were being processed in booking again. And I'm like, what the fuck? And they were like, yeah, I didn't really want to do the program. I just wanted out of here. And I got trespassed.
I mean, you start questioning, like, okay.
Hang on. My other favorite thing that used to happen is people would get discharged from the jail, like just released, like not even discharged, just released from jail. Time served.
Done. Yeah, ready to go. Go home.
And won't leave the jail. They have nowhere to go. They don't want to go back to the street, at least in the jail they were taken care of.
Yeah.
And so they would be told, you have to vacate the premises. You're free now. They're like, I don't want to leave. If you do not leave, you will be trespassed. I fucking dare you. And it's like, you're trespassed. You have to leave now, or we're arresting you.
Okay.
What part of I want to be arrested are you missing?
Thanks for solving my problem. I appreciate it.
I wish it had only happened once, and it was just kind of a funny story with a dumbass. Unfortunately, it was people. I mean, maybe not always the same day, but within a week.
Damn.
Within a week of release. I can't tell you how many people. In the 10 years I worked in booking, there were people who I could smell them when they walked in. I would go, "Oh, he's back.
He's back."
Yeah.
Ugh, wow.
Yeah, that's how bad it was.
It's hard to keep hope for rehabilitation in situations like that.
I may have mentioned something about compassion fatigue.
Mm-hmm. You did.
Any last words about Bad Boys?
I was just going to get there because my favorite part in this, and leads me to one question that I have for you, Mark, is if I go to prison, will they allow me to do book reports on comics?
Yes.
There is a moment in this movie where they can't get him to read books or read off the blackboard, but hey, ladies and gentlemen,
they can't read is the problem.
Well, that's a big issue. But the teacher has a stack full of like DC comics, Batman and everything, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I know that issue. And he hands them out, and they're supposed to write a report. And guess what? Them guys passed. That's right. They did a great job on that assignment. Here's to you, comics to save the day. Oh my goodness.
Next time, give him Kiss lyrics.
Right,
let's talk about the Basketball Diaries.
I love it. All right.
So the Basketball Diaries follows Jim Carroll and 3 of his ne'er-do-well friends, and they play basketball, and their coach is Bruno Kirby, and he absolutely wants to do sexual things with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes, unfortunately.
Who was a high school boy. And Jim Carroll lives with his mother, who is single and working, and she's trying to do her best, but she's sort of a dim light bulb, and Jim Carroll is a smart and sensitive boy, and he writes in a journal, and he won't let anyone see it. And he plays basketball with Ernie Hudson, who's taking time from his Ghostbusters gig. And they are the boys of summer. You know, they play basketball, they go to school, but they also get themselves into trouble. You know, a thievery here, a gang beating there. They're jumping in the Harlem
Scaring
River.
old ladies by yelling at them as they walk past them. There's no sense in that.
Right. They're jumping in the Harlem River because that's what you do. And then
hold your balls as you're going down, which is very evident when they do that. They're jumping and holding themselves to make sure, you don't want to hurt your junk.
Sure. They get a little bit into drugs, but over time they are continually exposed to bigger and badder drugs, and eventually Jim picks up a pretty nasty heroin habit. Gets himself kicked out of school. This is after his coach tries to molest him, and he's considering it momentarily because he really needs the money for the drugs. But then he was like, no. I have not quite hit rock bottom just yet.
There yet.
He will get there.
Emphasis on the yet.
Have faith that he will sell out his dignity for heroin money, folks. If that's what you're rooting for, is to see Leonardo DiCaprio get head in the bathroom by another guy, you will have that scene. So anyway, long story short, after succumbing to heroin addiction, Mark Wahlberg ends up pushing a drug dealer off a roof, and he goes to prison. And one of their other friends in the middle of a robbery gets injured, and he ends up getting taken to jail. The one of their friends, doesn't want to get involved in any of this, so he keeps playing basketball, and he gets a scholarship to college. So that's what happens to him, and Jim Carroll does not handle it well. The issue that set this all off was he has a best friend, who's dying of leukemia, and he is trying to be there for the friend. This takes up a lot of time in the beginning of the movie, but then the friend dies, and Jim Carroll cannot fucking keep his head together about it.
Nope.
Does not have the skills, the coping mechanisms to handle the death of his friend, which is what drives a lot of the action going forward. So all the friends are gone. The drugs have been shot. Everything is bad. And even Juliette Lewis has cleaned herself up by this point.
Right.
And so with nobody left, no friends, no family, nobody, nothing, Jim knocks on the door of his mother's home and says, "Mom, you got to give me some money." And she was like, "But no, Jim, no, this is all bad." And the cops take him away, and he gets clean. And then he's doing, he's reading his poetry, and that's it. He writes a book, and that book becomes the Basketball Diaries.
He performs on stage. That's where we kind of see it. See him. That last scene is his buddy. Oh my goodness, Pedro.
Yeah,
I'm gonna call him Paco. Pedro comes up to him, and Pedro unfortunately is still addicted to drugs. And Jim's like, "Man, I'm sorry, I don't have anything on me, and I don't want to buy anything from you." Walks through, he's standing out in front of this thing that says stage door, and you're kind of wondering what's going on. He walks through, and then he delivers a small monologue at the end of this, and you realize he's in front of a lot of people that are listening to him talk about his experiences, which is interesting, and that's how we end the movie.
Leonardo DiCaprio is amazing in this movie.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
Absolutely.
I know everyone knows by now Leonardo DiCaprio is a stellar actor. He's only been in like some of the best movies of the last 20 to 30 years.
Yeah.
But, you know, young Leonardo DiCaprio was as good as old Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, I know I make fun of it. I know I do like an exaggerated impression of what goes on in that last scene, but I do that because it's a really harrowing scene. Him in so I've never shot heroin, to be clear. But I have experienced, because I have worked in a jail for 10 years, had worked in a jail for 10 years. And some of that time I spent in the medical bay, or I spent in booking. The majority of it I spent in booking. And I saw people going through heroin withdrawal. I saw people going through opiate withdrawal because, you know, opiates involve painkillers, Oxycontin, that sort of thing. But also heroin, but also fentanyl, et cetera, et cetera. So I've watched people in booking like screaming at nurses like, I'm dying. And they're doing what they can. They have a protocol that they follow, but everything is steps in time, and nobody gets treated any better than anybody else. Everyone gets their medicine when they're supposed to and not a moment before. And if you're like, but I need more and I need now, it's like, sorry, that's not how this works. And then I've walked through the medical bay, I've walked through our infirmary, and I would just see these guys fucking strung out. And it was like, I don't like it. It's more your guys' thing than mine, certainly Alexis's, but like, I've never really been a fan of the zombie subgenre. And part of it's because it's not that interesting to me, but I remember like thinking to myself, working in booking and working in the infirmary, is that like, I don't need to see fake zombies. I already am surrounded by real zombies.
Oh, jeez.
You know, and I don't mean that as like that kind of a slight. I mean, like, they're the living dead. Like, their hearts are still beating, they're still drawing breath, but they have regressed to not people anymore. They are subhuman. And I don't mean that from an ethical point of view. I mean, like, there's no
physically.
They're just gone, you know, right. And all they can, and they're just screaming. Like, there were times walking through the infirmary, all you hear is screaming from people, male and female, not in the same building, but you know, I've seen girls just writhing and like this, like what are we gonna do? Like, giving you all the medicine we can give you, sort of hit, you know. So going back to Jim Carroll, and he's just agonizing against the door, and you know, he's getting dope sick. And, you know, and he's, you know, because he's become what he's become this manipulative, emotional monster. He's like screaming at his mother, "This is your fault. What are you doing to me?" Like, saying anything he can think of to get his mother to give him the money. And he doesn't care about his mother. And he doesn't really care what's happening to him. He just wants the money to go get high.
Right.
Because he's in so much pain. And it is, I brought it before about watching it with my kids. They've seen me do the Basketball Diaries routine before. I know how funny Daddy is. And then you know, look at him scream, "Ma, give me some money," you know, being dramatic. He's so funny, Daddy is. And then they watched the scene. They were like, "This is fucking depressing." Like, this is a bit much.
And that's because of what Leonardo DiCaprio brings to that performance. It really is. I mean, how he is able to portray somebody that, because he's not dope sick, but he has to try and portray somebody that is, and it's disturbing, really. It's bothersome to kind of watch him. This is one of the last bridges he's burnt with his mom, when he just walked out, and as they got into that argument earlier. And I mean, when I say earlier, I'm talking like this had to have been months, because by this time Mark Wahlberg has his arm broken. He's healing from it, whatever. So I know this is at least weeks or months after he left his mom, after they got into a big argument. And it's like the last safe haven that he thinks he can go and try to manipulate somebody to give him some cash.
Well, surely my mother still loves me.
Yeah.
That's the big thing they talk about. Like, I know you've got people who abuse drugs in your family. I've had them in mine. Who doesn't? The great unifying factor in, you know, post-war America, we all have drug addicts in our families.
Yeah.
So this is the thing that binds us together.
Yep.
So anyway, but they say of drug addicts, you will burn every bridge you have.
Mhm.
Everything, we spent 5 months talking about The Wire. How many times, do you
Dude.
watch this now and think back to some of the bubble wisdom, the Bub's wisdom?
Oh
you
my
married
goodness.
to the needle, boy. You married to the needle.
They go down to the basement. Have I
Mhm.
ever told you about the first time I did heroin? And then they show the basement as he's
Right.
walking down to the basement,
By
and
the
I
way,
start
you delivered
having
that perfectly to the point where I was like, "Wait, you did heroin? Tell me more, Jesse. This is a
No,
safe place
I
to
did
share."
not. Jim
Okay.
Carroll did, and I started having corner flashbacks.
Yeah.
Because it was
They're gonna turn and there's gonna be a horse barn.
it made me edgy on the edge of
Mhm.
my seat, and it's just dank and dirty and
Mhm.
depressing, and I was like, oh, this guy's going to go down a path that's not going to be good.
Remember the shooting gallery in the corner?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that house in Baltimore
house.
where it has no lights and bugs everywhere, and they're just all sitting in a corner shooting dope.
One of them is has an injury on his neck or something.
Oh yeah,
and
they're covered in MRSA.
Yeah, it's bad. It's not good.
Mhm.
Not good. And that's what I was like, ugh, that's what it made me. But as long as you're getting that fix, you're not thinking about what's surrounding you. Luckily you might be able to stay awake while you're at it. The old heroin nod. But yeah, man, this is, you watch him go from aspiring basketball star
Mhm.
to a person
to junkie.
Yeah, to junkie. And again, we have a mom who's kind of incapable of she wants to save this kid while he's throwing up and puking in the toilet. She's like, you're not the same, you're not the Jim I know. And she's worried about her son, but can't control him. This kid was they're in a Catholic school. There's this one scene where he goes to confess, and this, I feel like, is one of the other themes that is kind of coming through all three of these films, is about a system that fails those who are put in it. The Catholic Church is also a system, especially a Catholic school, that people are put into.
The fucking movie opens up with him being paddled by a
paddled, right. I mean, this is their.
By the way, how many of those boys were looking at him with hungry eyes? Another fucking weirdo thing in our culture.
Oh, man. But again, he goes into the confessional. I think he confesses. This is after they beat an old lady.
We wonder why the kink community is as big as it is. Yeah. Go on. Sorry.
That's all right. But yeah, they beat an old lady. I don't think he wanted to, but he was part of it because Mickey took some liberties on beating the crap out of this old lady to take her purse. But regardless, he goes in there to confess, and it's like the priest could care less and rushes to be like, okay, 20 Hail Marys and 3 All Fathers, or
gives him no advice at all.
Nothing.
No, there's no empathy, no advice, no wisdom. It's also, there was an undercurrent of, are you going to talk about sex anytime soon? Because that's why I'm here.
Jeez.
So tell me about your penis or get the fuck out of my confessional booth.
This is the system that we have trusted our kids to go to and learn wrong, and in between. Go ahead.
This is why, as much as I make fun of it and how silly it is, it all goes back to that fucking institutionalized song. It's a dumb song, but it comes from a place of real hurt.
We're
gonna send you so you can get the help that you need, the help that I need. When I went to your, he's crying and carrying on about it, and it's just a whiny little part of the song. But underneath all of the whining, and maybe not the best way to handle it, Mike Muir is those lines. I went to your schools, and I went to your churches, and I went to your institutions, and now you're saying that I'm the one that's fucked up?
You're the one, yeah. So
right. We're not gonna have any examination of these systems or these institutions at all, right? It's all me. I'm the defective. Going all the way back to that. By the way, I had to laugh at that because we have things are not very more humane than they've ever been when it comes to dealing with the ill and infirmed. But we've dressed it up with a lot of pretty language, because back in the 1983. You have what they call we're gonna send you with the rest of the mental defectives. Could you imagine? Could you imagine your kids in school right now, you know, and he's got like an IEP. They're like, come on, we got to send you to the mental defective class. Not special needs, mental defective. Like,
Wow.
language is important.
Yes, it is.
So anyway, yeah, I mean, the Basketball Diaries, part of the reason why, like I said, I wanted to watch it with the kids. Like, this is what happens when you have no good institutions. The priests don't care about you. Your coaches are trying to fuck you. Your father is left. Your mother is utterly ill-equipped to handle you. Like, what are you supposed to do? What do you, like, can some people not turn to drugs? Sure. Are they the majority? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
That's the story of the Basketball Diaries, depressing as it is. I'll give you the last word here and we'll move on.
Well, let's talk about the soundtrack, because supposedly
all the people who died. All the people who died. All the people who died.
Mark's getting down. It's the Jim Carroll band with all the people who died.
Love that song. All my friends, they died.
Yep. Yeah. And they're playing that. I think it's when the rain starts pouring down. And this is after, they're kind of consoling each other after their friend had died. But it fits this, the soundtrack to this. So we have, I'll just run it down here. Actually, way, Spotify.
This is why I had a conversation with my daughter today. I found out through the grapevine that she's not a fan of AI music.
Oh, okay.
And she's not a fan of AI generated anything because my daughter is in league with the artists. And she feels that for every person like me or you using AI to create art, you're taking, this is kind of Alexis's argument, you're taking away a job or an opportunity for somebody who has actual talent. It's a valid argument, not one I hold, but I validate her point. My daughter's entitled to her opinion, Robert. So anyway, she's entitled to her opinion. She's entitled, she made the argument and I said, I understand. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, but I appreciate that you are inherently against it. And she's like, don't get me wrong, Dad. Your songs are great, but you're also my dad. I'm gonna like whatever you do.
That's the same thing I hear, because it's like, hey, just let you know, I'll listen to your stuff because you're my dad. All right. Thanks, I appreciate it.
But I don't get. This is the point that I was trying to make. I don't get tremendously upset about the stupidity that we put out there. Songs, death metal songs about cooking, or elevator music, or whatever it is.
Last night mine was a merman and his scaly balls.
Sure. Or an entire album
shanty. So
or an entire album dedicated to memories of my podcast. But
who else is going to make those songs, huh?
But here's the thing: when our competition is all the people who died, I'm sorry. All the people who died. Good. Thank you. You sound like my mother. Why is Trump ruining the country? Because he's ruining the country. Thank you, Mom, for your insight.
Yes. Put that on paper. Write it down so I remember it.
So, my God, you and Thomas Jefferson, such writers. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all the people who died. Anyway, you were saying.
Well, I was going to say the poster behind you has the soundtrack. Most of them artists on the soundtrack listed. But I'll kind of quickly go through who we got contributing here. Obviously, Jim Carroll, which I did not. Number one, I did a little research after I watched the movie and understood and learned who Jim Carroll was. Unfortunately, Jim did pass away in 2009, I believe. Was from a heart attack. So, we were kind of checking to see, like, did he stay on the straight and narrow? And yes, he did. It was, he was writing at his desk and unfortunately had a heart attack and died. But Jim Carroll, Pearl Jam is our, Jim Carroll, let's try it again. Jim Carroll and Pearl Jam on track 1. Jim Carroll's in Devil's Toe on the second track. Down by the Water by PJ Harvey. Rockers Hi-Fi. Does that sound familiar at all? I don't know if you ever heard any of them before, but
I used to own this soundtrack because I owned every soundtrack in the 90s.
Did you now?
Yes, I did.
Graham Revel and Jim Carroll, the Jim Carroll Band, The Doors, which you can hear that music once it starts up. It's iconic, and you can tell drugs are involved. Green Apple Quick Step. The Posies, which I've heard, Massive Internal Complications is the name of it. The Cult, they've contributed here, or at least a song from there, from them. And then Flea, I'm sure of Red Hot Chili Peppers fame, and Soundgarden as well.
That's correct. Yes.
So anyway, I liked it. It was also an early role for Mark Wahlberg, and he did. I could tell, like, for this being an early role, this is probably one of those roles where you're just like, dang, he pulled off the role of Mickey, this overbearing, goofy, strong kid. He's the muscle bound dude. Of course, he's got to have his shirt off in this movie.
Mark Wahlberg was a bit typecast back in the day. I don't know if you know that. It's a lot of the same characters.
A lot of that. Love hearing that accent.
Oh yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But yeah, it's a sad movie, but it also offers a tiny bit of hope at the end. Jim Carroll goes through all this stuff, and at the end, he's hopefully clean, and he is an artist and has people listening to him.
Yep. That is the one thing I told when Jonah was like, but I don't understand why you felt like I needed to see this. I'm 11 and not going to shoot heroin. I want to be a scientist and win awards and have books written about me. He has a lot of ambition, my son. And I was like, because life may not, like you have the benefit of having two parents, two sets of grandparents, all who love you and nobody abused you. Count yourself lucky. And despite some, not great things that have happened to him, it could have been far worse. He could have been one of the kids in Alabama. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, Jesse. Well, I'm discussing Over the Edge. Quick Google child trafficking ring, Alabama, over the past week.
Oh, goodness. Okay, I'll do that.
But my point is, while you're doing that, I said to him, because sometimes your life doesn't go the way that, that you expect it to go, and bad things will happen, and maybe sometimes you find yourself in a really dark and bad place. That's not the end of the world. You can get out of it. Look what happened to Jim Carroll. There's nothing else. You take that away from the movie. He was like, hey, I understand, Father. All right, so let's move on to our final movie of the evening, Over the Edge from 1979. I have never seen this. Apparently, it was in very limited release. It was out and around a slew of movies like this. I think, people might be asking, how are you not doing The Warriors tonight? Because I didn't. It's not the one Fancy suggested. Or if it did, I didn't care. I didn't want to do it. Basically, I love this movie. I watched it this morning, and I'd never seen it before. And I love this movie because it reminded me, even though it's I think it's in Arizona or something like that. It seems like it's out in the desert.
I think it's you're right. It's got to be like California or something. They're building. I got you.
But it reminded me of Levittown. It reminded me of the Long Island suburban sprawl. Of we're gonna have these planned communities, and this is so we are white people and we have money, and we don't need to live with the hoi polloi anymore. And so we will build wonderful homes, and the men will go to work, and the women will keep the community and the children, and this will all work out perfectly. And the kids kind of get to a certain age, and just what the fuck is all this? What? We're not cared for. This is all an illusion. And so it's kind of like what we talked about with one of our previous triple features. We talked about Pump Up the Volume, very similar in theme. Pump Up the Volume, SLC Punk, and SFW, where you have these kids kind of feeling like they're ornaments to their parents. They're decorative baubles. They're not treated as people. They're not cared for as children. They're sort of treated as, for show. And the kids, after a while, freak out. And in this particular case, because the town is so bad and such bad things happen, eventually the kids lock all the parents during a PTA meeting, where the parents are turning on each other, by the way. That one teacher is just I spent all day with your fucking kids. How many of you showed up to a parent-teacher conference? None of you, that's who. So you have some people of the parents of the town that are just the kids are animals and we should send them to Christian conversion camp. Then you have one of the parents of the main kid who's just how many of you spent time with your fucking kids?
Yeah.
And the teacher's just pot, kettle, you're black.
Mm-hmm.
How much time are you spending with your kids? Because I spend a lot of time with them, and I know for a fact you don't. So there's a lot of that. And then the kids fucking lock them into school and essentially fucking rebel against the town. They start blowing up cars like it's goddamn the end of Rambo. Blood.
I cannot wait to talk about that final scene because it is just, it's so over the top and ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, go ahead.
So yeah, they treat that town like they're all John Rambo at the end of First Blood. It's just destroying everything, like smashing cars, blowing them up, setting things on fire, fucking running. By the way, because this is America, and occasionally someone gets a hold of a gun they shouldn't have.
Dude,
hang on. I saw a TikTok today about this guy, and like I did doing the Mike Muir thing. I went to school like I was supposed to. I stayed out of trouble like I was supposed to. I can't find a fucking job. And you want me to have kids? Why? So he can get, because you haven't figured out how to stop him getting shot at school. I was like, anyway.
I was just going to say the ridiculous over the top nature of that riot / whatever you want to call it, their chaos that happens in the school parking lot. Corey, which is the love interest of Carl, our main character, as this is all going on, all of a sudden we cut to a scene where she's like leaning up against a wall and she's like bleeding all over the place. And this one kid, I think his name's Claude, comes up to her and says the exact same thing that I did, which is like, what the hell happened to you? And she's like, oh, nothing. I just about got blown up. I'm like, that's a big deal.
Hey,
but she just treated it like it was nothing. Like, oh yeah, I just about got blown up. One kid explodes a car by shooting a pistol into the trunk, which I just did. I was like, come on.
These were American-made cars in the 70s. If you breathed on them, they blew up.
Well, the gas lines were lined on the outside of the car.
The trunks were actually filled with fuel. That's where the fuel went.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
The Ford Pinto, otherwise known as the Ford fucking car bomb.
Right.
So anyway, that's the movie. It's white people of a certain age in certain movies of a time are embarrassing to listen to. like there's just something about the tenor of their voices, the kinds of things they say, and I've heard it in other movies too. Like I'm thinking of one, I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's like somebody says something to one kid, might have been like Grease or something. Like somebody says something to one kid, and the kid just like super duper. Like, did people really talk this way?
Yeah.
People wonder why I have such like an affinity for Black culture, because everything they say sounds cool even when it isn't. I'll take fucking Family Matters. Okay, and Urkel and fucking Carl.
Over Super Duper?
Over Super Duper.
All right, then.
But anyway, one of the things that happened in the movie that's really pivotal is that like the kids hang out in like this like youth rec center, and the parents feel like the parents are sort of projecting onto anything they can to take the blame for the situation there, instead of looking at themselves. There's like absolutely no level of insight. It's always somebody else's fault. So they get around to blaming the rec center, and they close the rec center. And without a place for the kids to mingle and be with each other and have some sort of adult guidance, and they're just like pushed into the street, they go fucking crazy. That's like the whole movie. And I was like,
these kids weren't on the right path at the beginning of things, though. Okay, so let me just put it this way.
That's why I said, like, by the time we get to 1979, things are this bad.
It's bad.
Like, I was and I'm 3 in 1979. It's not like I'm walking up to my parents like, could you please tell me what's going on with you boomers? I'm 3 years old and the world is fucked. How did we get here? No, I by the time I am cognizant of the world around me, I'm living in the 80s and I'm being told we're fine.
Yeah.
But like as an adult, almost 50 years old, and a film historian and something of a cultural historian, and I'm looking back and I'm like, we were fucked by the time we got to 1979. Yeah. That's it. Our 20-year run as a superpower more or less ended in earnest. Like, how did we get here?
This movie was based off another based on a true story.
Mm-hmm.
And this incident, I didn't fully look over the incident. I just know I read the first part of it. This is supposedly loosely based on it. So maybe there were definitely some liberties taken, but it took place in 73. The incident took place in 73.
Oh, even better.
Yeah. Right. And a lot of it is, it's interesting because you start to see that the way that they kind of framed this movie was that it was a it was like the developer's fault for building these suburbs with nothing but like cul-de-sacs, but not a damn thing for the kids to do. Nobody thought to themselves, oh, hey, maybe we should, build something for all of our children to actually take part in, or at least 5 or 6 different things for the kids to do. I think they mentioned there's a bowling alley here. And then of course we have the rec center, which things that are going on in the rec center aren't very good. I mean, kids are still doing drugs outside of the thing. Every night party would happen. All the kids, and we're not just talking like 10 kids, 15 kids. It's like 50 like teenagers all getting together in one spot. And when they do that, they're doing drugs, and it's rampant too. I mean, the kids just aren't okay. All right. That is one thing that you are going to pick up right away, is that there are problems with these kids. Now, our buddy Carl, who is our main character here, there's a little bit, he's got himself a good family. He's got a mom and a dad. Granted, they may not pay as much attention as they should, but the mom definitely cares for him. The dad has a busy job working at a Cadillac dealership, and I think he's definitely involved in city planning as well, or at least talks to somebody, and maybe it's the mayor. I have no idea who this is. But, you can see that you're rooting for the parents. And I found myself throughout this film, even though our main character is a young teenage kid, I did not sympathize with them very much at all. Okay, so Carl is messing around with this guy named Richie, which is Matt Dillon's character. And he's got a couple other buddies, and they get into all sorts of shit. I mean, how do we open this film with teenagers sitting on an overpass shooting a gun at a cop car? Now, granted, it's just a BB gun, but they shoot a freaking gun and put a hole in the windshield of a police car. And then that's where we, of course, meet Doberman, which is an apt name for our law enforcement officer that kind of goes off the wall on this thing. Yeah, man, you talk about a movie I didn't know existed, and turn around when I watch it, I was like, wow, there is kind of a lot being said here. I understand the whole real estate development angle of things, like, hey, we do need to give the kids something to do. I believe that's probably a good argument here, considering this led to an uprising of children who were like, hey, we exist, and they felt that they needed to be heard in some way, and that's what led to the whole
There are
PTA
two
meeting.
things happening at the same time, and they're both like words of wisdom kind of things. It's idle hands are the devil's plaything, and nature abhors a vacuum. When kids are bored and they have nothing to do, they will find things to do. Like, anyone who is bored, this is a part of the reason why people get into drugs, is because it kills the boredom. Even Jim Carroll says it in Basketball Diaries. I think part of the reason why they started doing drugs is because they were bored. When you have something to invest in and something to live for and something that gives your life meaning, you're less likely to abuse drugs. When you have, in the absence of those things, and so it's like, I was thinking about like the term that parents use, like, go outside and play. Go outside and play what? With whom? How? Where? In the absence of specific instructions, I remember growing up as a kid, when by this time I'm like 12, 13, 14, somewhere in there. But I remember like a kid on my block who was not parented well, like, would go into like the sumps and set things on fire. That's what he did to entertain himself. I remember I got beat up by a group of kids in my middle school. They saw me, I was already kind of a picked on kid. And this group of guys were not fans of me. And I remember like just on my bike, like, it was dusk. I think I was out doing something, and they saw me and they were like, well, he's unprotected and he's easy prey. So they all like surrounded me and they started like kicking my bike. Let me tell you where I grew up. I grew up in a middle to upper middle class white neighborhood full of Jews, Italians, and Irish kids. Not a black kid in sight. Not a Hispanic kid in sight. All white kids. Okay, I got moved out of the black neighborhood to live in this white neighborhood. And in this white neighborhood, I was essentially gang assaulted by 3 rich kids. Who got
they were bored.
Yeah, I was. This is what they did to pass the time.
Mm-hmm.
take their anger, their frustration, their disappointment, the feelings of being unloved out on people like me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have my own gang to back me up. That's it. I don't cry. I'm not crying about it. It's a thing that happened as a way to illustrate the greater point.
Right. You said, parents looking at their kids and saying, go outside and play. That is really code for leave me alone.
Yeah. Daddy's drinking. So it's a Patton Oswalt bit. It's like, leave me alone. Like, he's doing his talk like an angry drunk. He's just like, you ever hear, like, he just sounds like an angry dad. Like, go outside. Daddy's drinking. Go outside and play. Get the fuck away from me.
Checked out parents. I mean, these parents are, that is the theme throughout a lot of this is that their parents are just kind of checked out.
Or disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, Carl, that's the thing about Carl being the main character here. He has a family that kind of cares for what he's doing. And I mean, you can see every step that the mom takes in this movie with Carl are steps that I would take. Like, hey, you're not going to hang out with that Richie kid anymore. He's going to end up in jail or dead. Oh, guess what happens a few days later? Richie ends up dead. And so every single step that the mom was taking felt justified to me. There's a point where his father is trying to express, you need to listen to your mother, treat her with respect. And then of course, Carl mouths off because by golly, he knows everything, and then the dad starts to slap the crap out of him. Probably went over a little overboard there, Dad, but I was on board with you up till a point. So I completely identified with at least that set of parents here. And this is a weird situation for this stuff to happen in real life, man. I mean, if elements of this happen in real life where the kids just kind of just like, okay, we're going to chain the adults in a room and we are going to just destroy stuff because, well, hey, there's nothing else better to do. And we want them, they've messed with us so much. Let's talk about Richie real quick. Richie, and Carl and his buddies, they run into a couple girls. One of them, like I said, is a love interest, Corey and her friend, who have just broke into a house, took a bunch of crap because this happens all the time. By the way, this city in the film, and maybe it was in real life, I don't know, was like the forerunner for the highest vandalism rate in the state, if I remember correctly. So these kids have had this trend of vandalizing everything. And what's happening here is like the city is trying to bring in developers to grow the town, and they can't because they have this reputation.
Right.
Anyway, we have, the couple girls break into this house, and then comes the gun. They steal a revolver. They go out, they have a good time with it after Corey almost shoots Carl and he plays dead for a second. And you're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that's not serious or anything. He almost gets shot and he's joking around, but they end up, going out, they shoot some stuff, they run out of ammo, and then something happens to where they run afoul of Doberman again. And Richie and Carl jump into Richie's mom's Jeep and they take off. Doberman's chasing after him. And I'm like, oh, they're going to get away, right? No, of course not, because Richie's the smart one and he drives right smack dab onto a beach where there's no way to get out. And he gets out of the car after wrecking it. They both split up. And Richie, in his infinite wisdom, as much as he's messed around with these cops, decides to pull the empty revolver on the cop and point it at him, thinking that that's going to end well, and says, suck it,
let me say, one universal constant with law enforcement, if you point a gun at them, it doesn't really matter if it's loaded or not. There's no way for them to know that.
You're dead,
but
dude.
If you brandish a weapon, the cops are within their legal right to blow your fucking head off.
Let
me say another thing. And people are just like, well, why can't they just wing you? That's not how they're trained. I've asked cops about this. Like, we can't shoot people in the fucking leg? No.
There's another possibility that you're going to get another shot off. That's not going to happen. We're going to make sure that that's not going to happen.
Every cop has said they are trained. Their policy and procedure is, if you're going to brandish your weapon and use it in an effort to bring down a criminal, You shoot to kill.
Yeah.
Headshot. Like one in the heart, one in the head. Period.
That's what, that's kind of why some of this film just felt so like, oh my gosh, who am I supposed to be rooting for here? Because Doberman's a douchebag throughout this whole thing.
Right.
And, he pulls the gun, he shoots Richie, he kills Richie. And there is a lady at the rec center lady at the meeting raises her hand and said, is it true that gun wasn't loaded? Like, what the hell does it matter, lady?
The fuck out, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me say this before this goes any further. Something I have talked about with my kids, something I have talked about with young parents, something I talk about on TikTok. Waiting until you think your kid is old enough to understand is too late. The sooner you can start talking to your kids, in fact, I have a whole TikTok about this that I haven't put up yet, but my script is sitting in my queue. Talking to your kids about body awareness and behavior and expectations. It's hard in the beginning. They're barely cognizant of what it is you're talking about, but it doesn't really matter. It's like the same thing with reading. Like, you should be reading to your kids in infancy. They can't understand a word you're saying, but there's a whole psychological effect that goes along with the what happens to an infant's brain when you read to the child. Same thing with cognitive behavioral parenting. You should start that in almost toddlerhood. And because if you wait until they're 11, 12, 13, it's too late. They've already formed a lot of pathways. You have to undo the damage you're going to do at that point. I bring this up because the prevailing wisdom, especially coming out of a movie like this, is nobody does anything with these kids, and then they become these roving bands of animals. And then they're just like, well, we need to get these kids to behave better. It kind of reminds me of the program from season 4 of The Wire, where they're like, we want to talk to 18-year-olds, and Bunny is like, it's a little high. They're a little over seasoned by that point, pal. You might want to go lower. And then they bring one in, and he was like, let's say we were talking about your sister. You talking about my sister? No, I said, let's say, why are you talking about my sister? And tries to get up, stab him. And he's like, maybe we should start younger. So yeah, they start with middle school kids because they're damaged, but maybe they're savable. Whereas by the time you're 16, 17, 18, you're not savable anymore. You know, the cop with these kids, it's like everything that you're talking about doing should have been done when they were much younger. You waited until they were a problem, and by that, it's like you stopping in the middle of an intersection as opposed to the stoplight. Now you're just in the middle of the fucking road causing, if you're not going to get hit, you're going to hit somebody else.
Yeah.
The same thing. Waiting until your kid is that you think is old enough to receive the kind of parenting that I'm talking about is too fucking late. You have to start that stuff when they're toddlers. It seems ridiculous, and it's gonna be an uphill struggle. But let me tell you how we had my son doing chores when he was a toddler. He fucking hated it. He was just like his uncle. It's like, the I can't do it, hiding in the bathroom, throwing a temper tantrum. Oh, Jonas was the worst. Now he cooks and cleans. He's 11.
Wow.
He makes my dinner for me because I'm fat and impatient and I don't want to wait. So I have him. So when he's here at 5:30, when it's a half an hour before I got to stop working, I'm like, put my Publix dinner for one in the oven for me. He's like, I will, father. I would get him a little. He calls me father. I'm gonna get him a little suit with a bow tie. He's my little butler.
Nice.
But he was a monster as a toddler. It was like, put your toys away. I'd rather kill myself to Jonas. It was the same thing with Lily. It was like, was she an obedient child? Sure. Did she want to do it? No. But but she's 14 now, and when I tell her your room has to be she has to be told. She's not as self-motivated as my son is. But I hear that's a big thing with 14-year-old girls. They lack the self-motivation. Yeah. But if I say to her, do your laundry, clean your sheets, pick up your room, she's like, yes, father, because she calls me father. I don't get the kind of disrespect, disobedience, that a lot of parents are getting with their kids because they didn't start this shit when they were young enough to build those pathways.
Right.
that's not what the movie is necessarily talking about, but it's in the subtext. Whether
Yeah.
the writers knew that or not. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, I mean, these kids didn't have direction. Again, their parents were checked out. They aren't interacting with
That's
them.
what I was getting to. They're like, pay attention to your kids. No, it's too late now.
Yeah.
You've created monsters.
By the way, look outside. Your car's on fire.
Right. Hey, maybe we should pay attention to the children. It's a little late.
And that's what
the horse has left the barn.
There's so much that's being said here. I mean, not only
Mhm.
are they sort of rebelling, but they're also like, hey, look at me. Look at me.
Yeah.
You know, one of my favorite moments in this movie is when the rec center lady, the rec center, by the way, has been shut down, but and the rec center lady is among the parents that are now trapped inside this building.
Mhm.
And she is just kind of like, everybody's freaking out, and she just kind of sits over on the other side by one of the gates, and she's just smoking a cigarette, leaning up against the wall, sitting down.
Mhm.
And she's doing nothing, and all of a sudden one of the little kids comes running by that has joined in the chaos, by the way, but she's talked to this kid before. She's talked to all these kids before, but she yells his name and says, hey, come over here. And he stops and he smiles. And this kid is the mute kid. I think it's the brother of Claude or whatever. But anyway, he comes running over there, and she goes, can you hand me the phone? And so he walks over. Sure. He grabs the phone. He brings it. It won't even reach. Like, the phone won't even reach. And she's like, hand me the receiver. And he just takes the receiver and passes it through the gate. And she says, okay, do me a favor and hit the number 0. He hits it, no problem. And she's like, thanks. And he takes off running. Now, the only reason that he did this is because she built a reputation, a rapport with these kids, and listened to them in the past and had talked to them. So it's such a great moment where all this chaos is happening, and the only person that can get through to them is the one that's talked to them in the past. And she gets them to basically get the cops in there and rescue everybody. So it's crazy. I did have a bit of a revelation. I mean, I don't want to interrupt your final thoughts on it, but I did have a bit of a revelation while I was reading this, and I had to have ChatGPT help me work through it. So I will read a little something here in a second, but I enjoyed this movie for what it was. 1979, you don't see me going back there very often in film land. I'm not. I mean, I'll watch Star Wars. I'll watch Alien. This is far from that. I didn't have anything else other than what I wanted to read here before we finish up. So you got any other thoughts?
No, hit it, Johnny.
Okay, here we go. All right. So yeah.
Sorry. Hit it, Darren.
Hit it, Darren. Like I said, you look at this movie and it's kind of like a time capsule. You got these late 70s haircuts. Got a kick-ass soundtrack, by the way. Another one I didn't pull up and take a look at, but I think we hear Van Halen in this thing. There's Cars, I think, show up in this, but maybe not. Maybe it was a different one. But anyway, we got late 70s haircuts. We got denim jackets. We got bored kids, wandering cul-de-sacs. But, the more I kind of sat there and thought about this film, the more I kind of realized that maybe things haven't really changed as much as we'd like to think. We've kind of talked about that a little bit already. Back then, the problem was kind of obvious.
Yeah.
Kids, nothing to do. They didn't have anything to do. And no one's really watching them. No outlets beyond a rundown rec center. It gets shut down halfway through the film. They act out in the real world vandalism. We got parties. We got drugs. We got riots going on. And the consequences were immediate and visible. Broken glass. We got exploded cars. We got arrests at the end of this thing. I mean, that's how we end the film, is the kid is arrested. Carl's arrested and put on a bus to go to juvie. So it's not a happy ending, really.
No, they fucking sent him to a concentration camp.
Right, dude. It's not good. But today...
We have learned nothing.
Right.
We have learned fucking nothing.
But what's interesting about when you think about this, though, I mean, the rebellion's still there. Okay. The rebellion's still out there. I just think nowadays it's kind of gone digital. Our kids really aren't roaming the streets anymore.
I can't get mine to leave the house.
That's where I'm going. They're not flipping desks. They're not starting fires. They're in their bedrooms. They're behind screens. They're in their Discord servers. They're on TikTok threads. They're playing their multiplayer games. And you might think that means the danger's gone, There's no broken windows, no stolen stereos, no Doberman chasing them in a cruiser, but the chaos.
There's sex traffickers on Roblox.
The chaos hasn't vanished, Mark. It just kind of shifted inward. Now it's virtual violence. It's cyberbullying. It's kids dogpiling each other online. It's emotional damage that doesn't leave bruises. It runs deep, though. Gang mentalities still form. They just do it through memes, DMs, and group chats, and instead of back alleys and abandoned houses.
I got to share something with you really quick. So Hulk Hogan died. And I said, Hulk Hogan is a messy personality, to say the least. But if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be in fucking. Oh, okay, it's the wrong one.
What?
I'm looking at it like, what happened to my comments? So I put up a TikTok for my review of Brave New World, and somebody left me a comment on it. That's why I thought it was the Hogan one. You want to end up like Hulk Hogan? Repeat after me. Black people are the good guys and white people are the bad guys. That's a comment that I received on my opinion of Brave New World that I didn't think was a very good movie and had nothing to say about the fact.
Please throw that into Fancy and tell it to analyze and come up with a good response. I want a very valid response that relates to what the man is personally.
I do not engage with the bees. But like that's like you talk about bullying, like a lot of stuff I have to just ignore on TikTok or I won't do it anymore. But like that's the kind of shit you hear.
Right.
Remember what was the last one? It was like fragile masculinity.
Oh, yeah.
Was that with you or with Robert? I told that to, or I get some weird comments.
I don't think you told me.
Oh yeah, I put up something and a comment that I got on it was fragile masculinity.
Okay.
Like, I don't know what you're trying to tell me.
More words, please.
Yeah.
I would appreciate them. But yeah, I think here, what kind of the big revelation that hit me was that here these kids had nothing to do.
Yeah.
Now our kids have nothing to do, but we've given them the outlet to kind of go and start fires online. They can go out and they can be as rebellious as these kids were in this movie.
But Jesse, you're only talking about the homes that they're comfortable staying in. You're neglecting an entire community of homes where they're not comfortable staying and they are roving the streets.
Right. I mean,
dude,
but
there was a housing, it's gone now. There was a housing project in Tampa that I went to years ago to do some sort of work that I was doing at the time. Might have been Child Protective Services when I worked there. There was a toddler out in the courtyard, standing in a pile of glass, picking up and dropping a television.
So it's still out there. It's just that we have given, I'd say half of those kids, actually most of those kids that were in that movie, if there was a Wi-Fi or a Nintendo Switch or something like that, I mean, these kids, most of those kids in this and Over the Edge were pretty well off. They just didn't have anything to do. They got bored and they went out and drank. Now we have found ways to make sure that kids aren't bored and make sure that they stay home. Look
at how many fucking rich people are out there with their rich kids, and their rich kids get into trouble, but we don't hear about it, or it gets covered up or whatever because they have the money to do that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Man, this was an interesting tale of real estate development and children uprising and Matt Dillon getting
guys. You didn't move the bodies. You built it on Indian parallel, but you didn't move the bodies.
How on the nose was it when Doberman wrecks the damn police car into the rec center and the rec center explodes and Doberman gets killed? I'm like, and thank goodness Carl gets away, but regardless, it's so on the nose with what this whole topic that this movie. I had fun though. I had a good time watching it, and I'm really surprised at how much I liked it for what it was.
Yeah. So this has been an interesting triple feature. Glad I did it now because I don't know if I would have been in the world's greatest headspace a year or two ago to talk about this stuff. But, we had a lively conversation about some very heady subjects. So I'm glad we did it. I still don't know what fucking movie this. If anyone knows what movie it is, where a kid smashes his face in a dodgeball game, and it's not dodgeball, and it's not Sleepers, and it's not Bad Boys. Someone please send me money. No, someone tell me. Someone send this to me. Help me out. I'm dying. It's no big deal, Jesse. It's no big deal.
No big deal.
No big deal.
That was a TV movie, if I remember correctly. I think is how we came up with that.
We found a TV movie called No Big Deal with one of the Dillon brothers. It's not the one I'm thinking of.
Right.
Fancy seems to think that it's like an after school special or something like that, or like a Canadian movie or something. Which it's entirely possible.
I mean, there's a TV movie called No Big Deal from 1985, but that can't be it. That cannot be it.
No, we scanned through it. I didn't see anything.
We did. We scanned damn thing. In search of.
What a podcast that was. What podcast this was. All right. Well, I'm done. I'm tired. I have other things to do.
Right.
So this was fun, Jesse, as always. Next time, our Sunday shows in the month of August. Next week we have nothing because SummerSlam's on night 2. But the week after that, we're doing some source materials because you yelled at me and said for the stop picking 50 fucking page books or 50 issue books.
I would hope that you yelled at yourself.
So we're doing The Crow, The Butcher of Paris, and The Many Deaths of Layla Starr. That'll be fun. That'll give you plenty of material to release over the course of the next month.
ChatGPT is up to issue 3 of Butcher of Paris, by the way. I haven't read a single thing, but it apparently loves it.
I changed a couple of things going forward to just like one book because, I listen. Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox. We got Baby Metal 4th. That'll be fun. The 24th is nothing because I want to watch Forbidden Door. And then the 31st of August, you and I are going to be talking about a Hulu show called Paris Has Fallen from the Has Fallen movie series. How do you like that?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what we got going on in the month of just the Sunday shows that me and you do. Tomorrow, I'm reviewing Fantastic Four. I think Alexis is going to be on. Alexis will be there. And Robert is now threatening to read another book. I don't even know why.
Oh, that was the joke. Okay,
yeah,
I get it.
I don't even know why I do Damn You Hollywood anymore. I'm going to be honest with you. And then Tuesday, Alexis is reviewing, I think, with David, K-Pop Demon Hunters. Apparently, like the best show on Netflix. I'm doing the Indie-Cider Scenic City Invitational with Harry. We're going to spend most of it talking about Hulk Hogan. I almost guarantee it. And then this Thursday is the Naked Gun trilogy. I watched the first Naked Gun with my kids tonight.
Did you laugh?
That still holds up. It's still fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I really want to go back and revisit them.
So that's it for this coming week. Last week, a week ago, you and I did Black Mirror, and then again, Robert read a book, but me, Alexis, and last week was I Know What You Did Last Summer. That's what happened. That was just me and Robert. He was behaved. Wednesday, we reviewed The Bear season 4, and then on Thursday, myself and Sean Comer reviewed the Oceans trilogy. That was actually really good. That was a good show. We had a really good conversation. And then you and I finished up for this year. We'll start again next year with RIBN the Album Volume 1. What a project that has been.
Lots of fun songs generated, a lot of good times, over a year in the making.
That's right. Commitment. That's what we're about here on the Rattlevision Broadcasting Network, being committed. All right, speaking of being committed, go ahead and do your plugs.
Last week on the Source Material Comics podcast, you can hear myself and Mark Radlich talk about the Joker War Saga. So go to any YouTube podcast or whatever, type in the Source Material Comics podcast, something along those lines. Should be able to find it pretty easily. Tomorrow on Unspoken Issues, myself, Matthew Price, Dean Derry, we get together and we talk about Series 2, our top 5, Series 2, Impel. I think this was Impel before it became Skybox. Marvel Universe card set. So our top 5 cards out of there. Had a blast talking about those, and it turned out pretty good. It's going to be a fun show. And then you can hear myself and Evan Bevins get together once a month and talk about Marvel Snap on Snap material. And we're coming up on the end of this month, so our next month should be probably starting next week. I would assume we're going to have about 4 or 5 episodes talking about Marvel Snap. And I think that is all I have.
Like the snap of the whip, a snap attack, front to back, in this thing called rap. All right.
Nice.
Fantastic. All right, Jesse. It's been fun. For Jesse Starcher, I have to pee. Be well, be safe, and behave.